It's my honor to introduce Flint Sparks back to us this evening. We're so very lucky to have him with us. And I know everyone knows him, so I'm going to just turn it over to Flint. Thank you, Flint.
Thank you, Kathy. It's wonderful again to see all of your faces populating the space. I sometimes think it's like to sort of counter the distance of the digital world. I imagine this is a space in my heart that's being populated by all these people being filled in. So it's quite nice. As we've done the last 2 days, let's begin with just a few minutes of sitting and silence so we can kind of settle from the activity of arriving and clicking on the right things and managing all these details. So I'd invite you to spend just 4 or 5 minutes of zazen, of just simply sitting. And I said this explicitly, Kathy, just noticing. I'll come back to that later. As we continue to sit with each other in just these few moments, I'll offer a reminder. So many of us have natural habits that come from many different sources. When we're asked to do something so simple as just sitting, simply sitting. And the first is an assumption that it's an invitation to go inside. In simply sitting, the invitation is to be fully present here, now, not to retreat to some interior world as if that's a better or clearer or more special or holy place. As we sit, we can connect with our inner world and stay connected with our outer world. In fact, we deepen our presence with the world, all worlds, without a division of inside and outside. So sitting in mindful attention isn't about retreating and going inside. And secondly, we're not waiting for something. We're not engaging in an activity for a future gain. We're simply sitting in the fullness of the present. And one of the ways to just check the fullness of the present is your posture. It's very common for us to be, some of us, to do what we might have learned, which is somewhat prayerful, which is kind of a collapsed or bent over, where we drop our head and our sternum goes down. But instead, if we lift our sternum and let ourselves be upright, our heart comes forward. So we're neither retreating nor waiting, and we're fully present. There's not a collapse into some embodied state. Just some small reminders. Embodying full presence with nothing to do, nowhere to go, no one to become. I love to take in your faces. So, how about a small review? Since we're in our third and final day of explicit and formal teachings, although tomorrow will be quite full as we step forward from these teachings, especially the aspects that have to do with ritual and ceremony, and engage in an embodied way, ritual and ceremony. On the first day, we reflected on the theme, wonder in the face of uncertainty. And I hope that you realize that wonder in the face of uncertainty is not a particular or unique challenge. It's actually the description of everyday practice, both the path of practice and its fruit. Wonder in the face of uncertainty is always the path, and it's always the goal, if you will, the freedom, the liberation of wondering fully in embodied presence in the face of uncertainty. Yesterday, we reflected deeply on how we are nourished and how we provide nourishment for others through this practice, no matter how difficult the circumstances. There's always the possibility for nourishment and to offer nourishment. And as we practice more deeply over time, there is a relinquishment of those distinctions among giver, receiver, and gift. There's just the flow of presence and life and love. So as we wonder in the face of uncertainty, offering and receiving nourishment. Today, we'll focus on how to let go and let come. How to prepare for what is coming next by letting go of what has been lost. As simple as allowing a nice, gentle, and full exhalation so that you can take the next inhalation, the next refreshing breath, but only if you've exhaled. How to let go and let come. And I mentioned yesterday that I wanted to dedicate today's teachings to my father, who died 1 year ago today. Dr. E.L. Sparks Jr., or more commonly and affectionately known as Sparky to everyone. My mother and my sister, who are actually with us today, were with him. He was at home with hospice care, and it wasn't a surprise, although it's always a shock. I was here like this on Zoom. And so now it's been a year, and I had wonderful conversations with my mom and with my sister Kathy just a few hours ago as we were reflecting on things. And also a couple of days ago, as we were preparing, my sister and I were just texting back and forth and talking about her joining us just for today. And I said in my text, the short version of the retreat description. And I had a particular twist on it, but you'll understand. The short version of the retreat description: how to remain sober no matter what hits the fan. That's our practice. And then I followed with it. I said, what does the program offer? It's because she's been involved in 12-step programs. And Kathy responded immediately back, a beautiful, simple teaching, which is all of the longer Dharma talks I've been saying, I've been trying to say this. Turn it over to your higher power, meaning you're not in control of anything or anyone except how you respond to life on life's terms. Clean house, trust the goddess of your understanding, and be of service. There you go. I thought it was very, very clear. And I'll be talking some about what I think this turning over means. And we've been speaking about meeting life on life's terms and what is our response to life. Trusting the divine, in this case, she said, the goddess of your understanding. That's him to the perfection of wisdom, the mother, Prajnaparamita. And to be of service, to be a bodhisattva. And she also said, clean house. You know, speaking of cleaning house, there's a term for an activity that's done in a Zen temple every single day. And when I was training, and I was either in the temples at San Francisco and the urban temples or at Tassajara in the monastery, there was an activity right after morning zazen and service called Soji, S-O-J-I in English, Soji. And that means after we had sat zazen and we would go to the Buddha hall and we would have the liturgy service, we'd line up and we'd be given jobs to clean the temple every day. It was just 15 or 20 minutes of something, and the bell would ring and we'd be done. It might be vacuuming, sweeping, straightening things, fluffing cushions, things like that. It's a regular activity in temple life and part of practice, not something you do so that you can practice there. That's the practice. And in Japan, there's something called Osuji, which means big cleaning. And families in Japan do this at certain times, like on New Year's, or when a new office is opened, or the school year begins. They meticulously clean. Osuji is the big cleaning. Like Kathy said, clean house. However, and this is, I think, what my sister was pointing to, it's not just a matter of cleaning off, dust and dirt and arranging things. The Japanese believe that along with purifying your physical space, you can let go of stagnant memories, past problems, and make room for new beginnings and experiences. So while in most parts of the world, I guess, certainly with us, we have spring cleaning. It's that time of year. But there's a crucial difference. To observe, and I say observe, like regular soji in the temple, is an observation of a ritual. To observe osoji, big cleaning, it means that you adopt the attitude of cleaning and declutter as a ceremonial ritual, not a monotonous chore. And when you sweep the dust, you're also cleaning they think that negative energy maybe of the past, actually opening the way for everything to be refreshed and made new, to let go and let it come. Years ago, I was speaking to my primary mentor, John Gladfelter, with whom I trained from 1975 until his death a few years ago. He probably had one of the largest effects on my life of anyone as a teacher. I'm going to share an image just so you have an image of him and of me, because you get a feel for what he could call forward in me. There we go. John was the wizard. He looked like the Wizard of Oz. He was an amazing person, masquerading as a psychotherapist. I asked him once, do you have like a philosophy of behind what you do? He said, yeah. Expect nothing, appreciate everything. Is a Zen master in disguise, So I was talking to him in a consultation group once, and I said, and we were just talking about psychotherapy at that time because I was one of his students. And I said, what do you think is like the main barrier when people enter psychotherapy and they say that they'd like to change? In your clinical experience, what's the primary barrier that people run into? And I expected him to say a number of things, but I didn't expect him to say unaddressed grief. He said that was the primary barrier. And over the years, I've taken it really deeper, and we spoke about it more, and I realized he wasn't referring to the grief that just comes from death and dying, the way we normally think of grief, although that was included. He was talking about like osoji, big cleaning, big grief, larger space, not deeper. He was talking about all the different ways we finish or do not finish old business, the ways we carry or release burdens, the cleaning house, so that we can be made new. Engaging the ritual, the ceremony of opening our psychic and spiritual windows and allowing fresh air to flow through the space of our being. And so certainly when we grieve the loss of someone special that we've loved or cared for, we feel that in a particular way, in a painful way. But there are many ways in which we don't even realize we're not moving with ease, we're not free, we're not liberated, we're not enlightened to what's next because of what we're carrying. And once again, that's part of the pathway. So he wasn't calling unexpressed grief just the grief over a death or a loss. But I do think that this unexpressed grief that he was talking about wasn't just a barrier to being able to utilize psychotherapy really effectively. I think it's one of the primary barriers to wonder and an impediment to opening the Dharma gates of awakening. Think about it. When we think about those several definitions of wonder that we talked about yesterday. First, unexamined or unexpressed grief is like a fog through which astonishment and amazement can't penetrate. Our heart's vision is foreshortened and hazy. I'm sure you felt this. So that's one aspect of wonder. Another that we spoke about is my experience and experience with others is that we have a very hard time finding the sparkle, the vitality of curiosity when we have unmetabolized grief or unfinished business weighing on us. We can't find that vitality of curiosity because we're looking back, or being held back. The third definition, which we spoke about and which I think Kathy Rashke also referenced today, with deep grief, especially the kind that is sometimes, I would say, crushing, we doubt that we can ever breathe fresh air again. We doubt that we can ever have a clear vision again. We doubt that we'll ever feel joy or have any hope for a brighter horizon out there. And this kind of doubt can evolve and devolve into despair rather than opening us through brokenheartedness to surrender, which is the Dharma gate of freedom. And I was reflecting on Kathy Rashke's very insightful teachings earlier today on the phrase that she used and realized in some ways as a vow, which is the phrase just in time. I loved her teaching on this. Just meaning perfect, upright, in alignment. Something's justified, it's lined up, it's upright. Like when we sit and it's perfect. Just in. And I was mentioning as we sat, we don't like go inside to meditate. We remain present. But in, as embodied and deeply foundational, as Suzuki Roshi described in his unusual description, he called it our inmost request. So we've heard this. What is your inmost request? When speaking about the profound place from which your way-seeking mind, the bodhicitta blossoms, what's that deepest longing or question that comes forward? In, embodied, deeply foundational. Just in time. We just completed a few months ago an entire intensive on Dogen's Uji, being time. Time as the totality of the present, not this linear thing that we have on our watches. Time as the totality of the present. You know, everything is a contingent flow. Everything is none other than this contingent flow of being, which is no other than time. But it's not flowing towards something. It's not trying to get somewhere. It is somewhere now. It is all of somewhere now, here. And I think this is what Kathy invited everyone to enact and realize as you were doing the walking meditation, as the embodied immediacy of each footstep on the earth, each breath, each moment of your life, of your laughter, as the totality of the present in the embodied now. And Dogen in Uji, in Being Time, is the translation. And this little fascicle is famously difficult. And Dogen uses languages in such a unique way from his deep practice perspective, and plus is quite creative in the way he uses language. So his practice on being time is similar to Kathy's just in time. The potential for freedom to settle into the present moment, revealing each and all moments in the life of our practice as expressions of awakening. What if that's what we notice? Oh, this is the expression of awakened life, and it looks like this. Once again, just as Kathy demonstrated in her instructions in walking. So there's this focus on meeting the present with a fully engaged, unobstructed mind, unclouded heart, in tune with the totality of being time that presences right now. And in touching the present moment, we're touching all past time, all the way back to the Buddha's enlightenment and before, all future times, like the future deepening of our realization and our actualization. We ourselves are moments of being time held in the palm of the Buddha, just in time. So I thank Kathy for her teaching and for her invitation and reminder. It helped me deepen some of the things that I've been teaching, actually. And then it gets quite real in the relationship as you reflect on a parent, for example, just as that example. And if you'll indulge me, I'm going to share a little something as I step through this. On the Han, which calls us to practice, we all, almost all of you know this phrase. That's on the Han. Great is the matter of birth and death. All is impermanently, quickly passing. Is awake, awake, don't waste this precious life. Oops, I don't know why it's not wanting to do the right thing here. Some of you have seen some of these, but I'm the little one, although the big one looks like me earlier. And then in the 90th year, when she died at 92, Memories are fuzzy, aren't they? Hazy. Showing me how to do something. It's in Galveston. And then I showed him a few things that I was doing these days. There were times when he was younger and more vital. This is the Marlboro Man picture, you know. The days when he and Mom spent a lot of time in support of the AIDS movement in the 80s. You see his and then in retirement, and the wonder, the softening. He was in a rehab facility early last year when the pandemic began. And we couldn't, one day, Kathy went to see him and they wouldn't let her in. That one day when things changed. But you see the Texas Bluebonnets. She said, go outside, let people take a picture so we can see. And eventually he was able to come home. His hospice bed where his chair used to be. And then the last day. So I would imagine without seeing all of your faces that you're probably feeling something. One of my wonderful friends and students in Tulsa, Steve Hops, he was actually on an inquiry recently, and you may have seen him tenderly speaking about his mom is now in hospice at the moment. This is something that he shared from his journal. I'll read it to you. And he just spoke this to me in halting tears earlier in the week. Here's what he wrote. I've enrolled in a master class called Death and Loss, as he goes to see his mother every day, you know. Walked right in and signed up as if I knew what I was doing. I expected to do well in this class. After all, I've worked in a nursing home and a geriatric hospital. I have 14 years of spiritual practice. I've lost my best friend, and I helped my father die on his own terms. Those prerequisites ought to count for something. And now that class has begun in earnest. Every day, I'm given assignments to examine and drop my preferences, accept what I don't want to accept, and give up control of something I badly want to control. And every day there are difficult pop quizzes that demonstrate to me that I don't know. So I go back to the course syllabus that I'd only scanned at the outside of the class and find in bold print on the back it reads, the stakes in this course couldn't be higher. You will have expectations and preferences. Can you hold them lightly? Pay attention to whether you can control anything. Let go of what you think you know about this course material. Sorrow will appear. How will you greet it? And then the course objective. By the end of this course, you'll notice improvements in showing up, paying attention, feeling your feelings, accepting what is, and opening your heart to yourself and everyone else. Just don't expect to master anything. I thought it was brilliant and a further expression of what Kathy had spoken about. Because, you know, in ordinary grief, I say ordinary, the ordinary way we think about grief, we think we know what it means. You know, you're going to feel sad, you're going to revisit regrets and old pains, you're going to long for what was wonderful and what will be missed. But if you include wonder, it does allow all of that. But it also allows grief not to try to come to a closure, but to open up. Just as we allow everything to open us as to the inconceivable reality flowing deeper and more fully than our simple personal understanding could contain, to something bigger. And I have two not so long poems, which I'll share with you. I'll send them to you. One speaks to the deep, deep, almost unspeakable justness that Kathy was speaking about. And the other speaks to the ways that we hide and that we try to gain control. First one, you know these probably, you've heard them, but now hear them in this context. By William Stafford, Ask Me. This one is outside of the normal season, but for those of you in Madison, especially, you really get it. Sometime when the river is ice, ask me mistakes I've made. Ask me whether what I've done is my life. Others have come in their slow way into my thought, and some have I tried to help or to hurt. Ask me what difference their strongest love or hate has made. I will listen to what you say. And you and I can turn and look at the silent river and wait. We know the current is there, hidden. And there are comings and goings from miles away that hold the stillness exactly before us. What the river says, that's what I say. What the river says, that's what I say. Sometimes when the river is ice, ask me the mistakes I've made. Or ask me whether what I've done is actually my life. Others have come in their slow way into my thought and have tried to help or to hurt. Ask me what difference their strongest love or hate has made. I'll listen to what you say. And you and I can turn and look at that silent river and wait. We know the current is there, hidden. And there are comings and goings from miles away that hold the stillness exactly before us. What the river says, that's what I say. Just in time. Well, that was such an amazingly beautiful entry into the inexpressible. And here's once again the Prajnaparamita, the fierce female, come on, and all of you know this one, but it's worth saying it today. The Dakini speaks. Some of you know Dakini is an imagery from Tibetan Buddhism that has to do with a fierce female warrior, spiritual warrior. This one by Jennifer Wellwood. She writes, "My friends, let's grow up. Let's stop pretending we don't know the deal here. Or if you truly haven't noticed, let's wake up and notice. Look, everything that can be lost will be lost. It's simple. How could you have missed it for so long? Let's grieve our losses fully, like ripe human beings, but please, let's not be so shocked by them. Let's not act so betrayed, as though life had broken her secret promise to us. Impermanence is life's only promise to us, and she keeps it with ruthless impeccability. To a child, she seems cruel, but she's only wild. And her compassion is exquisitely precise, brilliantly penetrating, luminous with truth. She strips away the unreal to show us the real. This is the true ride. Let's give ourselves to it. Let's stop making deals for a safe passage. There isn't one anyway, and the cost is too high. We're not children anymore. The true human adult gives everything for what cannot be lost. Let's dance the wild dance of no hope. Oh, can we tolerate where this will take us? The curriculum that Steve talked about in his journaling. Can we walk through the door of uncertainty and the inevitability of loss rather than clinging to the internal managers and protector parts that promise a hope that is unreal? A hope that maybe it's not like this. Can we tolerate the dissolution of our precious expectations that we cling to, our misplaced certainty that our plans for our life that we deserve and we're entitled to, that we think will happen, is actually not our lived reality? This is my sister Kathy's turning it over. Think about where we are right now. In this time during the pandemic and all the other things that have happened. What do you know now that you had not known before these losses? I'm going to put these questions in the chat in just a little bit. What was revealed through this transition of this year, which will remain? How will you be different, or will your life be different? What do you have to relinquish, and so that something new can arrive? And wandering into the center, a circle of wonder, what has been your change of heart? I'm gonna put those in the chat in a bit. But before we do, I want you to just take a look. I sent you the post-COVID transition memorial service. We're not going to do the service, but I want you to look at it. If you'll please take it out. Because we are going to do something. The service begins with the Kokyo announcing the Heart Sutra, Heart of Great Perfect Wisdom Sutra, and then we chant the Heart Sutra. That sutra is suggesting that everything that we think is form is actually emptiness, and emptiness expresses itself back in form. There's this contingent flow of reality, which is beyond anything that we could grasp or hold on to. And after that chanting, there's a dedication by the Kokyo. May we awaken Buddha's compassion and luminous mirror wisdom. Isn't that a beautiful phrase? May we awaken Buddha's compassion and luminous. It doesn't say, can we get some from the Buddha? It says, may we awaken in ourselves and in others as we practice together. May we May we awaken Buddha's compassion and luminous mirror wisdom. Chanting the heart of great perfect wisdom sutra, we dedicate this merit to. And then there's a list. Our original ancestor in India, great teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Our first woman ancestor, great teacher Mahapajapati, that's Buddha's mother. Our first ancestor in China, great teacher Bodhidharma. Our first ancestor in Japan, great teacher Eihei Dogen. Our first ancestor from Japan, great teacher Shogaku Shunryu, that's Suzuki Roshi. And our compassionate ancestors in America, great teacher Charlotte Joko Beck and Zen K. Blanche Hartman. Gratefully, we offer this virtue to all beings. And then the dedication that's classic, all Buddha's 10 directions 3 times, all honored ones, bodhisattvas, mahatmas, wisdom, beyond wisdom, mahaprajna paramita. Now you don't have to understand all these things. Then there's a chant, the Enmei Juku Kamen Gyo, which is a Japanese chant that calls forth all the bodhisattvas for mercy for those who have gone. And it's quite a lovely chant. I won't do it here. I've done it before. We typically do it 7 times. It gets faster and it gets louder until the end, and it comes into a deep silence. One time through, it sounds like this. Kanzeyan namu butsu yo butsu en yo butsu en bu poso en jo rakagajo jonen kanzeyon bonen kanzeyon nenen ju shinki nenen furishin. And Kanzeyon is the Bodhisattva of compassion. That's Avalokiteshvara, Kuan Yin. And here, now we have something to do together. You ready? In Buddha's diamond realm, the sun of wisdom shines without ceasing. The sweet sound of Dharma soothes every troubled spirit, like a draft of cooling water. With full awareness, we have chanted the Enmei Juku Kanan Gyo. May Buddha with infinite compassion illuminate this endless field for our great abiding friends, our Dharma brothers and sisters. And now, even though no one will hear you because you're muted, say the names of the ones you want to say right now. I'll say my dad, EL, Sparky, Sparks. I can see your mouths. Just say names of those who you'd like to. And for the many millions who have perished from COVID-19, for all those who have died from gun violence, for everyone who has perished for lack of food, medicine, and basic necessities, and for all the species on this planet who could no longer thrive and have departed. All have passed from this world to the next. Each has taken the great leap. The light of this world has faded for them. Each has gone into a vast silence. All are borne away by the great ocean of birth and death. May each person, together with all beings, realize the end of suffering and the complete unfolding of Buddha's way. And then what you see on your sheet is the Japanese version, actually, of all Buddha's 10 directions. So why do we tend to this? Because somewhere another child is being born who's going to ask us things we don't know yet. And we're going to have some sense of how to account for our time on earth and what it's meant. So this is the time when I'm going to ask you to go into small groups as we did yesterday. And Becky will help us go into those small groups. And this time you'll have about 20 minutes, maybe a tiny bit longer than we had yesterday. And I'm going to put those questions in the chat for you to reflect on. Mainly, simply, let's make it simple. Just reflect. Remember I said for your altar, you would have something or someone on your altar? Just simply talk about that thing or that person that you've lost. Be really careful about your time. If you have 20 minutes, each person uninterrupted, just have really deeply listen and speak about, and maybe in that time you might think about, some of those questions. What could you have not known before this loss? What's revealed, how you might be different? But you don't have to go into too much. Just talk about that and let someone listen and bear witness. Bearing witness is essential for letting go so you can let what comes. So you'll be going into small groups now. You'll come back at about 20 minutes till the hour, maybe a little bit after, and I will see you then. My heart is being repopulated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. See, are most of the groups back, Becky? Looks like we're all here.
Yes, everyone's back.
Good. Well, how did it go? And I, more specifically, since we have about a quarter of an hour, if you have things that are important that you'd like to report and be focused, of course, or questions that you have or things that arose that want to be met, please raise your hand as you've done before. Under the little smiley reaction button, you can click raising your hand, and Becky will help you come forward. I see Zore.
Can you hear me now?
And
Hello. In the group that we have, we talked about our vulnerabilities and grief. And I noticed as you were talking about your father, I noticed that I have a lot of unprocessed, metabolized griefs, both for people whom I lost, they passed away and died, and the people who are here, but I lost them. And I don't know how to deal with it.
you don't know how to do.
How to deal with this grief? How do I express it? Cry? Okay, I cry all the time. It's not getting any better. So
One of the important and difficult, I think, pieces is to let go of the idea that it will get better.
okay.
And let it keep unfolding and finding its way. It's like when a river flows across a landscape, water tries to find its way. It isn't getting better. It's finding its way through the landscape. And that's how it's going to go through your own heart and your body. It helps when you have people that you can speak to. I don't think grief is possible to complete alone. It requires witnessing and expressing. And some griefs will stay with you for the rest of your life. And that's not a failure. It's sometimes just a testament to the depth of the love and the connection. That these losses aren't meant to get over. Let it keep teaching you and unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. And let other people love you and listen to you. Thank you.
It was just amazing to me that we all said the same thing.
Yeah, what was it?
Well, what we all said was, our family, we miss them. We want to hug them. We want the feeling of holding our grandkids or our kids and giving them a big hug and welcoming them. And that none of us could do that. And then how we kind of fought those feelings for a bit. And then we settled in and began to live our life. And one thing we did discover was the people who had lived with someone else found it a little easier than the people who lived by themselves.
Sure.
And that
And
was,
And these are the shared circumstances, which is really important to share.
it
and to hold
is.
together.
Yeah.
And the next thing that can come, and we need to go into it now, but the next thing that can come is, given that that's the shared experience, what did it reveal that wasn't revealed before? What did you learn? What will remain
Yeah.
of the way your heart transforms? That's ways to just take it forward after today.
Yeah, your questions.
Right. And I'll put those in the thing that I send out to.
Oh, good. Thank you.
You'll have those with with the poems and other things. So you'll have them.
Good. Thank you.
Cool. Let's see who's going to be unmuted. I'll see which one shows up. It's Nancy.
It's me. Yeah. Hi, Clint.
Hi, Nancy.
So I have to say, every time I look at you, I always think you're looking directly just at me and smiling. So, so I just want to, I'm really nervous, but I'm going to do this. You know, a year ago, right before your father passed, we were together in a retreat. I think either Minneapolis or Open Door. I think it was Minneapolis. So, and then it was 2 days later, it was after I think our retreat maybe had just ended, that we got the email that your father had passed, because you had shared that this was happening. And I happened to have this little lake place I hang out at, and I happened to be here where I am now. And I wrote this really short little verse to you that I would like to share with you. I have a date of May 3rd on it, 2020. When I
don't know about you. Well, we're getting a funny sound here. Straight below you at the very bottom of my page, I don't know if it says Kathy S. Is that on yours? No?
No.
Anyway, somewhere in there, you'll see at the bottom, and you'll see a picture of my sister and my mother.
Oh, I don't know how to do that.
So that's okay. That's okay. The only reason I'm saying is you wrote this to me about my dad's passing, but they're going to be hearing it.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so it's very short, but I just remembered yesterday when you were saying we were honoring your dad. I thought, I'm here, and I know I have that, and I want to read it to you. So,
Thank you.
what I wrote was, I saw a flock of geese returning home. Maybe. As they flew, the leader dropped back, allowing another to lead. And I thought of you. I sit with you today, blessed with the awe and the wonder of this precious life, feeling gratitude and fear, pushing nothing away.
That's fantastic.
That was, I think, the kind of goal of our retreat was to push nothing away. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Oh, thank you. It's very, very moving. Would you be willing to send it to me so I can put it and then share it with everybody?
Definitely.
I'll put it with the other poetry.
Thank you. I
Thank
would
you.
definitely. Thank you. So to your family.
And cheerfully received. It's not falling out, but it's close.
Yeah.
So we have Kathy or Jan. I'm not sure who will pop up first here.
I'll be really quick. I just want to thank you for this opportunity, because you're honoring your dad. And I also remember your dad's passing and how moving and and appreciate your vulnerability with it. What I've done with my mom's stuff is been sitting in the guest room for 7 months. I haven't been able to deal with it. And because you said that you were going to honor your dad today, it gave me the courage to go in there and start working my way through her life and my brother's life and all that's packed in there in that guest room that's been piled up in boxes of photos and letters and writing, and just really appreciate that. It gave me that gift. So
Go gently.
yeah, I didn't get it all done.
You know, Mom and Kathy are very efficient women. They've done quite a bit this past year, but I'll be going to visit soon for the first time later in this month. And Mom and I were talking about, she said, well, I still have this and I still have that. And
Yeah, how do you let go? You know, although, yeah, that's a whole thing.
it's like I was saying to, you know, little by little, we let it open. So
Well, I'm making memory books for them and memory boxes, so at least I'll have some images of these things.
yeah, that's great.
So thank you.
Thanks for looking into my memory box today.
Yeah.
Kathy?
There. Oh, Flint, I wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart, from my whole being, actually, for the comments you made about my talk today, for the tribute. Actually, it felt like a tribute that you gave to me today. And what came to mind is the term interbeing, because we both wrote that.
That's right. And you inspired me by your teachings, but what you said were inspired by mine.
Exactly.
No giver, no receiver.
Exactly.
No,
Exactly. Right.
it's just a wider space for the Dharma to flow.
Right. And the comments that you made about the, just in timelessness, you were right on. That's it was an incredibly profound moment, because it held all of that, and you described it beautifully. And at one point you were talking about Dogen's work on being time. I just wanted to share that the book that I was reading, Each Moment is the Universe, when I had that insight, oh, this is just in time, is on Dogen's teachings on time.
He's a sneaky.
Yeah, he flows through us every once in a while, when we least expect it.
And we look forward to your ceremony tomorrow.
I do too.
We get to hear more of your teachings and mainly just celebrate you and let you profoundly enact a ritual and a ceremony, and you will discover its meaning in the action, just like we actually discover the meaning of our own lives through its living.
It's feeling like retirement to me, and in a glorious sense, because I retired, I don't know, 11 years ago, and there was some grief in that, because parts of it didn't go well. And so it's like, wow, I get to reenact this.
That's right. What is it that you're retiring in this ceremony?
The active role.
That's your first question for your ceremony.
The active role of being head teacher. I become a former head teacher.
That's the everyday level.
That's the everyday level. Okay.
What's the deeper response? What are you actually retiring?
It might be the fear about it, about being enough. That's what comes up for me.
That's beautiful. And so you're considering retiring your friend, the fear of being enough. One thing about retirement is it's an opportunity to rest. That one.
To rest that one.
That one. She can rest.
Yeah, I'm having this shadow thought of that came up recently. It kind of was creeping in somewhere, and I recognized it. And so maybe it'll come back to me. Maybe the the situation that it came up with will come back to me, because that would be helpful if it would, because then I could.
Well, let me ask another question since we're at it.
Okay.
You started your time as head student really reflecting on relative and absolute.
I did. That's right.
And I just ask you questions on those two levels, and I'll ask you one more.
Okay.
Except now I forgot it.
Well, see,
I
I
was
do.
talking to you, it went out of my head, don't you? Isn't that amazing how that can happen?
Yes.
You're talking about what you're retiring.
And I'm retiring from fear of not being enough.
There it is. Thank you. Okay. From the everyday relative position, when you in your small self look out at the world, will
Mhm.
you ever be enough?
No.
No. No, because you're a limited human being. That's just the way it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you step into that larger space of the absolute and accept that, are you ever not enough?
I'm everything.
Right.
I
There's no part of your personality that will ever be the absolute or enough.
mm-hmm,
As the absolute, there's nothing missing,
mm-hmm,
and you're still limited.
mm-hmm. And when I started this practice, I churned those ideas, and I don't get stuck in my head so much, but it moves that way, right? And I was confused, and now it's like that, it's just here.
That's what the river says
Mm-hmm.
in that poem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What the river says, that's what I say.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
Just flowing deep underneath,
Right.
full. Yeah.
Right.
Well, just wanted to prime the pump for the ceremony tomorrow
Okay.
for the benefit of everyone. You offered pretty nice teachings, huh?
Thank you.
I can offer many, many thanks, and we're not complete because we'll see each other tomorrow. But I did want to just shout out to, Becky, who's helping us so much technically. It's a lot of work, and all of those people, and I don't even know all of them. Aaron certainly, and some others who are taking care, and Eileen, and all the folks who help with the registrations, with Chris, and there's a lot of people. I can't name everyone, but I do thank the Academy. No, there's the many things that and each person, when I look at it, I could offer you a thank you, to Bonnie, to on and on. I look at Ann Johnson and think of all that she is doing and has done for so many of our students and continues to do. Great. But I want to just end by my profound gratitude for the love and support of my sibling and my mother. My mother, who brought me into this world and sustains me at this time, and my sister, who both cares for my mother and is a great companion for me. Thank you very much. And we'll see you back earlier tomorrow. I believe the ceremony is at what time, Kathy, would you say? Or,
We're going to meet together at noon for our sit, and then our ceremony is at 1 o'clock.
Okay. And did you want to say something else, Eileen? We're just signaling the 1 o'clock. Okay.